The 1998 Tour de France will always be remembered for the Festina affair, the case that brought systematic doping truly into the spotlight of the press and fans alike for the first time in cycling history, and which came very close to destroying the most prestigious competition in the sport. 15 years later, retroactive analysis of numerous cyclists showed that the top 3 finishers in that edition, Marco Pantani, Jan Ullrich and Bobby Ulick, had doped with EPO, undetectable in the anti-doping controls at the time. The 4th classified of that tour, and therefore the moral winner of that edition, was our protagonist of today, a guy that may have slipped your mind and be forgotten, and be seen by many as being a one-hit wonder of cycling, the Frenchman, Christophe Rinero. Do you want to know his funny and incredible story, and why he is considered a fraud many years after? Well, without further ado, let the show begin. Christophe Rinero signs in 1997 for the new French super team, Cofidis, led by the legend that is Cyril Guimard, and with top-class cyclists well known to the inspirational Dr. Ferrari, such as Tony Rominger, Maurizio Fondriest, Kevin Livingston, and of course Lance Armstrong, still convalescing from his illness, but signed as a superstar. Rinero did not have that same name recognition, nor the prestige of the aforementioned, and he spent his first year in the cycling elite somewhat unnoticed, although in the Criterium de Dauphiné he finished a worthy 11th place, ahead of radioactive riders such as the Austrian Georg Touchnig and his own compatriot Richard Virenque. This performance prompted Cofidis to take him to the Tour de France, where he finished anonymously in 115th place. However, they would see something in him to give him the following year a large pharmaceutical development kit. A kit that confirmed that Cofidis and Christophe Rinero would make an all-in for the 1998 Tour de France. At the start line in Dublin, Cofidis showed up with a team led by the Italian Francesco Casagrande. 6th overall in the 1997 Tour and in clear progression that season. Alongside him, a young Bobby Ulick led inexperienced teammates, such as Kevin Livingston, the Swiss Roland Meyer, and Christophe Rinero himself, who had gone from strength to strength in his stealth preparation with a stage win at the GP Midi Libre and a 10th place in the very tough French National Championships won by Laurent Jalabert. The team, led by Alain Bondou, kept a low profile during the first week, in the middle of the Festina affair, although Casagrande was the best climber in the long flat time trial in Corrèze, won by Jan Ullrich, which was already an indication that the preparation of Cofidis was adequate for that edition. But what no one expected was what happened thereafter, Cofidis becoming the terror of the Tour de France. Just one day later, in the stage win of the doped and lucky Jackie Durand, Cofidis Frenchman Laurent Debian took the lead by taking advantage of the breakaway, wearing the yellow jersey all the way to the first stage in the Pyrenees. His name was the first of the 4 Cofidis riders that appeared in the positive samples for EPO doping in the retroactive tests carried out in 2013, proving that the Cofidis team's first big success of that tour was a real hoax. But all successes are linked to some misfortune, which is what happened to Francesco Casagrande in the first day in the Pyrenees. While Christophe Rinero and Roland Meyer escaped on the ascent of the Aubisque, in the legendary attack of Rodolfo Massi and Alberto Elli's Casino team a block on a day of extreme rain, the Cofidis leader fell on the descent, causing the doped Italian rider to abandon the race immediately. Undoubtedly, and looking at the performance of those radioactive Cofidis riders, it is one of the biggest what-ifs in cycling history. Could Casagrande have won that 1998 Tour de France? The next day, in the stage finishing in Plateau de Baille, Cofidis put on its first notorious choral display. Roland Meyer broke away with some other riders, and if it hadn't been for a Marco Pantani more fired up than Diego Maradona at his Cuban parties, he would have won a spectacular and unexpected stage victory, in the end coming in second at the finish line. Of course, he's the second name of the Cofidis EPO positives in that Tour de France in the retroactive tests. Bobby Ulick and Christophe Rinero, who made the ascent of the Plateau de Baille on the wheel of the then leader Jan Ullrich, sprinted like good panniers in the final metres of the climb, like the uncooperative rats that they were, with the gringo taking second overall, while Meyer, Rinero and Kevin Livingston were already in the top 12. But as Ulick himself said, he was hoping for the best in the Alps. Everyone remembers the great rainy day in the Deux Alpes when Marco Pantani beat Jan Ullrich to take the lead that he would not relinquish until Paris. But behind the epic frontline scenes, there are also other stories, like that of Rinero, who that day escaped again, on no more and no less than the Col de Galibier. And again with the drug dealer Rodolfo Massi, in an epic duel for the points for the King of the Mountains jersey. That day again Bobby Ulick was too conservative, not collaborating with Jan Ullrich in the hunt for Marco Pantani until he decided to attack the German with Meyer on the ramps of the last ascent to the Deux Alpes, already too late. Possibly that day the American lost the Tour de France. A real shame for him, because he would never again have the medical arsenal that the Cofidis fireworks provided him, as evidenced by his positive for EPO in the 2013 retroactive tests. However, there was also positive news for Cofidis, with Rinero taking a spectacular 5th place in the overall classification, but crossing the line 4th at the finish, almost 3 minutes behind the winning Pirate. But the young French alopecia would still have 2 more lucky breaks. After Ulick didn't have the big cojones necessary to work after Jan Ullrich's powerful attack on the way to Albertville, and the Cofidis boys showed that they were a superlative team in the mountains, but with very little tactical head behind it. In the infamous stage of Aix-les-Bains, where the tour should have ended, the Spanish teams and some others withdrew and stopped the narco Rodolfo Massi, leader of the King of the Mountains classification. Thus, Christophe Rinero climbed to 4th place in the final classification and became the owner of the polka dot jersey without any high mountain stages along the way. He even had the indecency to finish 7th at almost 47 km per hour on average at the final time trial in Creusot, a time trial that Bobby Ulick almost won over Jan Ullrich himself, and in which Meyer also finished in the top 10. Undoubtedly an embarrassing Tour de France, but a joy for Rinero, climbing onto the podium in Paris as the great hope of French cycling, something that he would confirm months later, winning the Tour de l'Avenir ahead of the Spanish Joseba Balocchi. For the Tour de France director Jean-Marie Leblanc himself, Rinero would be the great white hope that would defeat doping in the 1999 Tour of Renewal, which was finally won by the ineffable Lance Armstrong. However, injuries and the fact that Cofidis never again flew in the Tour de France prevented a brilliant career from taking off, turning into a disastrous one that ended up with teams of dubious pedigree such as Maxime Saunier-Duval and Agri Toubel. But there is still a curious fact outstanding. Rinero's name, curiously enough, was not in the papers given by France in the positive samples for EPO in the 1998 Tour de France. Many compatriots asked for the final victory in that Tour de France to be given to Rinero, being the first classified of those not positive for doping in that edition. Curiously, they are the same ones who ignored that Philippe Gaumont, the famously doped rider and Rinero's teammate in that tour, assured us in his own biography that he and his teammates doped with plans mixed between doctors Mauro Vizzani and Michele Ferrari, with cocktails of EPO and growth hormones that they hid in the ice creams that they took, leaving hematocrits close to the 50% threshold. Ferrari's magic, which so far no one has denied. Christophe Rinero, the cleaner who would win the Tour of Renewal.